For centuries, there's been this incredibly powerful and mysterious image in Christian thought, the New Jerusalem. It's this vision of a perfect future, a divine city, and man, has it sparked endless debate and fascination. So, okay, let's just dive right in. And boom, right away, we're at the heart of the mystery. Like, are we talking about a literal city floating in the clouds, or is it something more symbolic, a spiritual kingdom right here on Earth? That's the central question we're going to unpack. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, where does this idea even come from? Then we'll get into the two big competing visions. After that, we'll try to decode some of the wild symbols. And finally, we'll look at why this is still such an unsettled question. Okay, first things first. Let's really set the stage. The New Jerusalem. This isn't just some minor detail. It's a huge, foundational piece of what's called Christian eschatology. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically the theology of the end times. So what is it really? At its core, the New Jerusalem is all about a promise. It represents God's ultimate endgame for humanity, a vision of a future where everything is in perfect harmony, where people live with God and each other without all the problems we have now. And what's super interesting here is that this whole concept doesn't just pop up in one random verse. Nope. It's actually woven throughout the Bible. You get these little hints and glimpses from Old Testament prophets like Isaiah and Ezekiel. But it's the book of Revelation, chapters 21 and 22, that really just blows the doors off with the most vivid, detailed description. And because those descriptions are so incredibly detailed and vivid, well, that's what leads us straight into the great debate. It's created two totally different camps, two competing visions of what the New Jerusalem actually is. So on one hand, you've got the people who take it literally. They see a physical, tangible city. We're talking streets, foundations, the whole nine yards, either up in heaven or coming down to earth. But then, on the other hand, you have the symbolic view. And for them, it's not a place at all. It's more of a spiritual reality. The idea that the church, the community of believers, becomes God's kingdom right here on earth. Now, these two interpretations don't just come out of nowhere, right? They're actually tied to these bigger theological frameworks. The whole literal city idea, that's usually connected to something called premillennialism. The key idea there is that Christ physically returns before a 1,000-year millennium. The symbolic realm view, though, is often part of postmillennialism, which sees Christ's return as more of a spiritual thing that happens through the church's growing influence. In this quote right here, it just perfectly sums up that literalist perspective. The idea is that some believers get raptured, taken up from the earth, and their destination? It's this actual physical city built for them in heaven, a real place for a specific group. But then you have this, a completely different angle. The focus here shifts completely. It's not about a place you go to. It's about what the community of believers becomes. The church itself is the New Jerusalem. It's the living, breathing representation of God's kingdom, making it visible right here, right now. Okay, so whether you're in the literal camp or the symbolic camp, here's the thing. Both sides are working from the same incredible poetic language in the Bible. So let's have some fun and try to decode a few of these powerful symbols. So first up, the foundation. The Bible says it's made of all these precious stones. Jasper, sapphire, emerald. I mean, wow. And this isn't just about looking pretty. These stones are meant to symbolize perfection, divine glory, and just how priceless this thing God is building really is. Then you've got this river. And it's not just any river. It flows directly from the throne of God. It's called the living water of life. The symbolism here is just so clear, isn't it? This city isn't sustained by anything we'd recognize. Its life source is a constant, direct flow from God. But this next one, this might be the most mind-bending part of the whole description. It says the city has no need for a sun or a moon. Think about that for a second. No sun. How is that even possible? What on earth could light up an entire city like that? And Revelation gives us the jaw-dropping answer. The light isn't something created, like a star. The light is the glory of God. God's own presence is the sun for the New Jerusalem. I mean, that's just a stunning way to describe what it means to live in the direct, unfiltered presence of the divine. So as you can tell, this is a pretty deep and complex topic. And this whole debate, it's not new.
Not at all. This is a conversation that's been going on and evolving for literally thousands of years.
If you look way back, some early interpretations actually saw the prophet Ezekiel's vision as a literal blueprint for building a city. But over time, the mainstream view started to lean more symbolic, seeing it as the church living out its mission. And then more recently, you get some modern movements, like what's called hyper-premillennialism, that have really doubled down on the idea of a super-literal physical city. And of course, there's pushback on these views. The literal interpretation sometimes gets criticized for being a bit too rigid, maybe even promoting a kind of exclusivism, like only a select few get in. The symbolic view, on the other hand, is often praised for being more inclusive. It presents a spiritual reality that's open to all believers, no matter their specific tradition. But look, here's what's really crucial to remember. At the end of the day, whether you picture a city falling from the sky or a spiritual kingdom growing on earth, the core message is the same. The New Jerusalem is this profound symbol of hope. It's a vision of a future where everything that's broken gets fixed, and humanity finally lives in perfect harmony with God. And so that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is the New Jerusalem a destination we're just supposed to wait for, something that'll show up at the very end? Or is it a reality that we're actually called to help build, right here, right now, with our actions and our communities? Because, how you answer that, well, that kind of changes everything.